Welcome to our Caribbean and African Targeted Health Improvement Program, CATHIP Health Hour. The Caribbean and African Health Network, CAHN, along with its national partners, are incredibly pleased to continue to bring to you targeted health and well-being education delivered by Caribbean and African doctors. These health hours are all about empowering, educating, and giving space to Black people so our communities can look after themselves better. Every Saturday, our Black GPs or consultants present on those health and well-being topics that affect you, your family members, and friends. Some weeks will vary and will include other panel members, such as pharmacists, specialist nurses, and faith leaders. Our health hours cover a range of topics and include mental health, heart health, women's health, reproductive and sexual health issues, men's health, respiratory problems, cancer, sickle cell, and many more. We have not forgotten to include within our health hours the many societal, cultural, religious, and racial challenges that can go hand in hand with health problems and influence how we should respond to meet health and well-being needs. The sessions are designed for you, and we want you to use the time to listen, learn, share your experiences, and ask questions to our Black doctors. During every session, we will gather your feedback so we can continue to respond to the needs of our Black community. To request any particular topic, please email health@cahn.org.uk. We encourage you to invite others to our health hour sessions. Spread the word in our community. CATHIP is funded by the National Lottery Community Fund.
Good morning. Welcome to another session of our health hours. Nice to see you all here. I hope you've had a good night's sleep, but if you haven't, this morning you'll find out how to get one. I'm delighted to introduce to you today Dr. Ayo Olatoye. And for those of you that join us on a regular basis, you will know he's no stranger to our health hours, and he's contributed to many a health hour with some really interesting discussions. But sleep is, whilst we call this a health hour, we don't just focus on disease. We also try and give you tips to live a healthier life. We've done lots of lifestyle issues, and today it's about sleep. And sometimes it can be quite difficult to get a good night's sleep. And whilst we don't want to medicalize it, it can lead to health issues if you're chronically sleep deprived. So it's really important that whilst we focus on making sure we get good exercise and we eat well, but also to focus on something like sleep as well. So I'm going to hand over to Ayo to take us through the next half an hour or so about what we can do to get a good night's sleep. As usual, these sessions are for you. So if you have questions, please make sure you either raise your hand or pop them in the chat if you're a bit shy, but keep your questions coming. And look forward to interacting with everybody this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ngozi. I appreciate being asked back to present to CAHN. It's always a privilege for me. So I am very, very grateful to be asked back to present. So just for clarity, I did a presentation a couple of weeks ago talking about, the blueprint to a good night's sleep. And in that, we went into in-depth conversation about how you can break down practical steps you can make to have a good night's sleep. But one of the things I've realized is that we avoid things that we're not good at. And one of the things that we may not have appreciated is sleep as an asset. So the conversation today is going to be about understanding really the benefits of sleep, which should hopefully give us the push or the impetus to be able to really investigate what we can do to have a good night's sleep if it's something that we struggle with. So I will keep an eye on the chat box, but I'll try and answer questions at the end. And I'm just going to go through this so we can have some conversations later. So I always start my conversations with thank you very much. Like I said, you could have been anywhere doing something else, and you've chosen to spend this time with us here. So thank you. And I'm especially grateful to CAHN and the work that is being done in our community, because it's really important for us to appreciate that almost, well, probably in every health outcome, if you were to track it against race, Black people fare worst for so many things. There are lots of things that contribute to that, but it's important that we take care of ourselves. So thank you, CAHN, for creating this platform. So who am I, in case we haven't met before? My name is Ayo Olatoye. I'm lots of things. So in June of 2020, I had a stroke. I had a small stroke. And as a consequence of that, I started to be much more intentional about my health. I was at work, actually. And that's a long story. We can have a conversation about that another day. And I also started a journey towards my financial freedom, because I believe that my health and my wealth are things that I can control. It's not something I'm waiting for someone else to sort out. And, it's not even something I'm praying to God to sort out. I think God has given me the tools. I'm a master builder. That's the organization that I started to try and help people live their best life. And health is one of those things that really affects every area of life. So I always like to establish some ground rules, because sometimes things people say can be, I want to make sure that you understand my heart when I am talking to you. So I'm your brother. No matter if the thing I'm saying might be difficult to swallow, I'm your brother, and I want what's best for you. And I don't believe there's anything in the world that's something for nothing. So if we want to get something, we want to have a good night's sleep, we want to have a better night's sleep, there's probably something we're going to have to do to get there. Progress comes at cost. Sometimes the cost is time, sometimes it's intention, sometimes it's research, sometimes it's money. But often there's something that we have to do to move ourselves forward. Now, the theme of my life since I had the stroke has been these three phrases: take stock, take responsibility, change, take action. When it came to my health and my wealth, I had to ask myself, where am I? When it comes to my physical health, my mental health, my financial health. I had to sit down and really ask those core questions. I had to take responsibility. I am where I am because of the choices that I have made, rather than, blame other people for where I am. And I had to take action, because sitting down in a room praying, I receive, does nothing. I believe the word of God says that God will bless the works of our hands, and the Bible also says that we should show our faith in the outcome that we want by the things that we do. So action is really important. And I always challenge people, you're going to get a lot of information today. And the challenge is just change one thing. Start with changing one thing and doing that thing consistently. As you continue to walk that road, other things that will help you in your stated goal will come to your attention to help you do them. Okay, so we are body, soul, and spirit. I've said this before. From an etymology point of view, the study of words, historically, people believe that when body, soul, and spirit were in balance, then we were in a state of ease, and the absence of balance was a state of dis-ease, which is where the word disease comes from. So the reason why it's so good for CAHN to have this platform where we don't just talk about physical health is that all of these things impact everything else. So have you noticed, for instance, when you're ill, you don't want to pray? And when you're in not a good place spiritually or mentally, you don't want to exercise. All of these things have a great interplay. So what are we going to get from this conversation? We're going to have a greater appreciation of what sleep is and the benefits of sleep. We're going to review things that are the enemy of a good night's sleep. And I think that's the really thing that's important. So the issue isn't sleep in terms of hours. The issue is sleep in terms of good night sleep, good quality sleep. and we're going to do a whistle-stop tour of solutions. But I want you to see sleep as an asset class. So what's an asset? An asset is something that adds to you, and a liability is something that takes away from you. And again, maybe up until now, we hadn't seen sleep as an asset. We've just seen it as something that we do. But hopefully by the end of this conversation, you'll be able to really appreciate what the benefits of a good night's sleep are. Why am I doing this? It's good to give. My philosophy in terms of conversations and giving and sharing is a rising tide raises all boats. There are some people and communities who like to keep information and value to themselves rather than share it, because they feel like because they have a scarcity mindset, they believe that somebody else winning means that I can't win. I don't believe that. I believe in abundance. I believe that God has enough of everything for all of us. So if a rising tide happens, everybody's boats are raised, your being blessed has no bearing on my ability to be blessed, and vice versa. So we're having a conversation about good quality sleep. It's a big issue. So when surveyed, around 2/3 of UK adults suffer from disturbed sleep. And nearly a quarter report that they had no more than 5 hours sleep. And I think something that I've noticed as a trend that's really dangerous is that, especially in this hustle culture, where, there's lots of people who are talking about, grinding and working really hard. People are even bragging about how little sleep they have. But hopefully by the end of this, we'll realize that that's not, that's a race to the bottom in terms of good health. A quarter of adults reported that improving sleep was an aim for them. An average adult in the UK gets about 5 hours sleep, on average. Women are hit harder than men. That's just the statistics. They get, on average, 1 hour less a night. And only half of the people surveyed, over half of the people surveyed realized it was an issue, but it didn't do anything about it. That's not you, because that's why you're here, to hear this conversation. But it's important for us when we have issues to realize, to look into, well, what can I do to improve it, rather than just tolerate it. As a doctor, I'm often amazed at how much people tolerate before seeking advice. So what is sleep? I like definitions. Let me get this out of the way. Sleep is a naturally occurring, recurring state of mind and body characterized by altered consciousness, relatively inhibited sensory activity, reduced muscle activity, and inhibition of nearly all voluntary muscles during rapid eye movement sleep, and reduced interactions with surroundings. Because we all do it, but if you had to describe sleep to somebody who didn't sleep, this is what sleep is. Sleep is the opposite of wakefulness. So wakefulness is a daily recurring brain state and state of consciousness in which an individual is conscious and engages in coherent cognitive and behavioral responses to the external world. Being awake is the opposite of the state of being asleep, in which most external inputs to the brain are excluded from neural processing. So those are just fancy words to say what we all know. Being awake is when you're aware of what's happening, and being asleep is the opposite of that. Let's go deeper. So there are 4 stages of sleep, and the way that we determine these stages of sleep is by doing scans of the electrical activity in the brain. So brain waves, rather than like a CT or an MR, it's when you put the electrodes and check the electrical activity, what's happening in the brain. So stage 1 is dozing off. I'm sure you've all experienced that. Lasts about 5 minutes. Stage 2, everything slows down. What I mean by that is your heart rate slows down, your metabolic rate slows down, your blood pressure starts to reduce, your temperature reduces, body temperature drops, muscles relax. This is stage 2. That lasts about 10 to 25 minutes. Hopefully, this is the ideal situation. Stage 3, everything slows further. So in this state, they say that you do work in the day, but you process things at night. So stage 3 sleep helps with thinking, creativity, memory building, and there's some evidence that it, helps to boost your immune system. And there are cycles of stage 3 throughout the night. This is just a visual representation of the different stages of sleep. I am going to go into more detail about things like REM and stuff in a minute. So you imagine sleep like a pool, and rather than you being in a steady state, what's happening is that overnight you are diving deeper into the pool and coming more shallow, and into the pool and coming more shallow throughout the night. So this is what a visual representation of what sleep looks like. So in REM sleep, brain activity picks up. The eyes move rapidly. That's why it's called rapid eye movement. That's what REM stands for. The body is still, so you're essentially paralyzed. Your body's not moving, but it helps with thinking, memory, and creativity. So again, if we're not having REM sleep, our ability to think clearly the next day, our ability to remember conversations, and our ability to solve problems becomes affected. This is where dreams occur, rapid eye movement sleep. So if you're watching somebody and you can start to see their eyelids fluttering, then you know that this person's probably dreaming. It takes about 90 minutes from the onset of sleep to get to REM sleep. What are the benefits of sleep? So in terms of, I've put this on here because I don't know. I've struggled with insomnia at times in the past, but sometimes it's difficult to talk about the benefits of something you've done all your life till you have the absence of it. And, there are some places and cultures and institutions where sleep deprivation is a torture. We know that lack of sleep affects our mental well-being, our physical well-being, in a significant way. It's torture. So it's important for us to make sure that we are being intentional about having good quality sleep. So one of the benefits of sleep is that it allows your body to recharge because there's energy conservation. You're not obviously using the same levels of energy as you are in the day. Because your body temperature drops, your body is like a furnace or a nuclear reactor, if you will, and it's always consuming energy to do for the functions that go in your body to perform. So whilst you're sleeping, your body has a degree of rest, not just in the colloquial sense of you're not doing something, but your body's ability to your body's need to go through these processes reduces, especially because the body temperature is reduced. There is evidence to suggest that having good quality sleep over a long period of time slows down the aging process. So the opposite is true. Poor quality sleep over a long period of time increases the aging process. Benefits of sleep. So yeah, so if there's any questions about what I'm saying while I'm doing this, please just put it in the chat box. Another benefit of sleep is that that's over a long period of time, good quality sleep helps your body from a maintenance and restoration point of view. I'll make a point about modern medicine. So modern medicine is fantastic in a crisis. Heart attack, stroke, sepsis, all of these things, we have very good medication to solve when there's a problem, and it's a massive problem today. We didn't have these things historically, as cultures, but we do have these things now. Modern medicine is fantastic for that. Now, my belief is that what we have done is that we have extrapolated. So we've looked and said, well, we're good in this situation here in terms of a crisis, so maybe we should use the same stuff for chronic problems. And my belief is that modern medicine is less good, less well equipped at using the same solutions to deal with chronic problems. And there is a burgeoning emerging specialty of doctors who are what we call lifestyle medics, and their philosophy is that prevention is better than cure. It's better to not have had the stroke than to have to recover from the stroke and not have another. Same thing with heart attacks and diabetes and stuff like that. So the people who are specializing in lifestyle medicine are people you can have a conversation about and say, well, this is where I am now. What am I at risk of, and what changes can I make today so that I can be, much more healthy and avoid problems in the future. In terms of sleep deprivation, when they've done animal models, causes the animals to lose their immune system. Have you noticed that when you don't sleep, you're a bit sniffly, you're a bit achy? It might be something that you've noticed if you do shift work. There is data to suggest that people who do shift work, their overall health is affected in a way that is detrimental compared to if they didn't do shift work. We all have to do what we all have to do, but it's important to know this so we can mitigate this if we need to by doing other things like eating healthy, getting sunlight when we need to, and exercising. So benefits of sleep: it helps with muscle growth. When you are awake, the word catabolic means breaking things down. So when you're awake, your body is breaking things down like muscles. When you're asleep, things are being built up. That's what anabolic means. So you might have heard of people who take anabolic steroids so they can have bigger muscles. The process of anabolis, being anabolic, is building things up, and that's what sleep does. So again, I'm just listing the benefits of good quality sleep. Tissue repair. So if you've had an injury, you've been in an accident, you've cut yourself, your body takes care of these things best when you're asleep. Cognitive function. So in terms of when we measure productivity, good quality sleep affects that. They did a study, and they had surgeons who were awake for greater than 24 hours. Now, again, these people are experts in their field. The issue is not their innate ability. They've already been trained to a high standard. But those same surgeons, when they were awake, took 14% longer to perform the same surgery, and they made 20% more mistakes. So this is one of the things that we changed in terms of our training, because we know that we're making it harder for people to give best care in terms of medicine and surgery if we're forcing them to have long on-calls. So whatever skill you have, you can probably extrapolate the same thing. So you're probably less good at doing the thing that you are an expert at if you have poor quality sleep. Obviously, benefits of sleep helps with tiredness, and tiredness essentially is the buildup of a molecule in your body called adenosine. And adenosine is what's blocked by caffeine. That's what gives you the sensation of wakefulness. Okay, we're just going to go through this quickly. So brain plasticity. So what do I mean by that? Probably not historically anymore because we've changed our opinion about it, but for a long time, scientists and medical professionals believe that the majority of the body could regenerate itself. So if you cut yourself, your skin would regenerate. That's why we do things like do liver transplants. So you might cut off part of your liver to transplant to somebody else because we know the liver will heal itself and it will expand to almost the same size as it was before. But there was a belief that the brain, once it was formed in adulthood, could not change, could not form any new connections. The way your brain works is that you have the neurons that connect to themselves, and those connections were thought to be fixed. But there's now lots of evidence that actually even through adulthood and late adulthood, the brain is able to perform new connections, and the ability to form those new connections and learn new things is called plasticity. So it helps with our ability to learn. For instance, somebody who's had a stroke who was right-handed, but their right hand doesn't work anymore, they're able to learn to function in a way that their left hand works in a similar way to their right hand used to. Brainwash. So There are different systems in the body that help us stay healthy. One of them is the vascular system, that's your blood vessels. Another of them is the lymphatic system. So what I mean by lymphatic is it's to do with your body dealing with infections and taking away toxins. You have a lymphatic system that runs through your body along the same tracks, if you will, as your blood vessels. Now, one of the benefits of sleep is the glymphatic system. So there is a flow of CSF. So CSF is cerebrospinal fluid. And what happens is that during good quality sleep, your brain is essentially washed. The CSF goes around the tissues of the brain and it washes away harmful metabolites. One of them is called amyloid beta, and amyloid beta has been linked to Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So again, we know that if you're able to get good quality sleep, your glymphatic system is turned on, your brain is washed. As a consequence, you reduce the risk of problems in the future. But again, the reverse is true. So not having good quality sleep means that there is an increased buildup of these harmful metabolites, and so you're increase the risk of, again, problems in the future with regards to dementia and stuff. It's just useful to know. Good quality sleep promotes weight loss. So lack of sleep increases your body's production of a hormone called ghrelin, and ghrelin boosts your appetite. But sleep reduces leptin. So poor quality sleep reduces leptin, and leptin is the enzyme in the substance in the body that tells you when you're full. So if you don't have leptin because you've not had a good quality sleep, you'll overeat. So good quality sleep reduces the risk of cardiovascular damage. We know that cardiovascular damage and disease is a big issue in terms of death, and especially in the Black and African community. So lack of sleep increases cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. And increased levels of cortisol over a long period of time have been proven to increase risk of cardiovascular damage. Lack of sleep reduces risk of stroke. One of the links is that there is a condition called atrial fibrillation, which is an irregular heartbeat. An irregular heartbeat is one of the biggest risk factors for stroke, and not having good quality sleep or lack of sleep increases the risk of atrial fibrillation. Lack of sleep reduces car accidents. Good quality sleep reduces car accidents. So car accidents are twice as likely statistically on 6 hours when compared to 8 hours. But sleep improves hand-eye coordination, reaction time, and we've already talked about muscle recovery. Sleep reduces muscle inflammation, and this is via reducing these substances in the body. So CRP, C-reactive protein, is a molecule in the body that is produced when there is inflammation or infection. And IL-6 helps to your body, also increases your body's reaction to inflammation. So that's the mechanism for increasing muscle recovery. Good quality sleep reduces risk of depression because it helps release endorphins, and endorphins are basically feel-good factors that help you stave off depression. We'll keep going. Good quality sleep reduces the risk of diabetes. Skipping one night of rest makes you as insulin resistant as a type 2 diabetic. So for those of us who don't understand diabetes is type 2 diabetes essentially is a state of insulin resistance. Very quickly, insulin is a hormone produced by your pancreas, and the insulin tells your body to take electrolytes and substances out of your blood and into the tissues, and one of the important ones is sugar. Now, obviously, insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes has its own risks in terms of nerve damage and heart disease and stuff like that. But did you see that skipping one night of sleep puts your body in exactly the same physiological position as somebody who has a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes? Good sleep helps convert short-term memories into long-term memories. We all know that if we don't sleep very well, our ability to remember things is impaired. Benefits of sleep: improves relationships. So lack of sleep reduces our ability to have, language and reasoning and communications skills. So obviously, communication being one of the biggest issues in terms of relationships, that being affected by poor quality sleep is only going to make those things harder. So this was a whistle-stop tour. And again, I'm trying to keep the time for once. If there are any questions, let's talk about them in the chat box. But my challenge to you always is take stock. Ask yourself, confront yourself with regards to good quality sleep. Where am I? Can I hand on heart say, yeah, I'm somebody who has good quality sleep? Or is it something that I want to look into? Ask yourself a question: how am I investing in my sleep? So remember, we want to see sleep as an asset class. If you had a house as an asset, you would invest in it to increase its assets. If you had stocks and shares, you invest so that those things increase in assets. When we have a car that we've bought, we invest to keep it running. I always challenge people to think of your body like a luxury car. Sleep is essentially something like a regular service. So what are you doing to invest in making sure that you have good quality sleep? This is a challenging question, but these are the questions that we have to ask ourselves if nobody else will ask us. Are my habits helping or hurting me? Because it's only going to be one of those two things. So I'm going to talk about illusory superiority. Illusory superiority is essentially, statistically and psychologically, when it comes to assessing ourselves, the majority of people, when studied about a task or an activity, think that they are over 50%. But we know that statistically that doesn't make any sense, because only 50% of people can be 50% or over. What that means is that we are often overestimating our ability to do something or a skill. So that's why feedback is really important. That's why it's good to get advice and come to these chats is really important. The reason I put this on is that often, especially when it comes to health and we talk about risks and stuff like that, this is not to scare you, but also I don't think it would be sensible for us to go away and think, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me. I think we should look at it and take it seriously and say, I need to make sure that I am doing everything I can within my power to address any deficits or issues that might stop me having good quality sleep. Let's take responsibility. I am where I am. I am responsible for where I am. That's easy enough to do. To say, sometimes it's hard to do. So how do I get a better night's sleep? I mean, I did an over an hour presentation on this, and I've put the YouTube link in there. Like I said, this is a breakdown of practical advice, dietary advice, exercise, things about lights that will help you be able to say, I've taken my sleep seriously. How do I go about it? I am going to challenge you and encourage you to go to the CAHN YouTube page. This is the link, and I've sent the slides. This is a link so you can have a look at it. I want to encourage you that you can do it. It is important, especially if you've struggled with insomnia and poor quality sleep, not to, I know it's harder to say than to do, but not to feel despondent, but to really push and continue to put yourself in a position where you work towards good quality sleep. We define good quality sleep more extensively in the talk that I did. I always try and encourage people, because often when we talk to people who struggle with something that they want to change, the response is, oh, well, this is just who I am. Sometimes we've accepted having 4 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep, and well, this is just who I am. I would always encourage people and say, there was a time when you weren't able to drive, now you're a driver. There was a time when you weren't able to trade, if you can, now you're a trader. There was a time when you weren't as healthy as you could be, and my encouragement is that you can take steps forward into changing that sentence to say, now you're as healthy as you could be. Lastly, know yourself, be kind to yourself, and be patient. Sometimes it's tweaking this, let's see if it works. If I snore, you know, getting those things for your nose, or having a conversation with your GP. There's lots of things that you can do. I will stop sharing my screen, and I want to give people an example, because sometimes in situations where we've struggled with things for a long time, there can be a sense of futility or a sense of overwhelm. Where do I start? And I want to encourage you. This is the example I always give people. So I want you to imagine yourself over here. This is you, but you are a fitness model. So you're over here. This is in response to people say, well, what do I do first? This is you, but you're a fitness model over here. Now over here, this is you, but you weigh, 200 kilos. So most of us are somewhere in the middle, right? My challenge is that, or my encouragement is that if you wanted to go in either direction, you would know the first thing to do. And my challenge to most people is that if you want to take a decision into walking in the right direction with regards to your sleep, there's probably something that comes to your mind that you'd be like, I know if I change this thing, at the very least I'm walking in that direction. So that's the presentation, and thank you for bearing with me. I do have an answer to a question I was asked last time before we go on, Dr. Ngozi. Last time we talked about sleep, and there was a question about magnesium, because I mentioned that magnesium is one of the things that we can do to improve our sleep. The recommended daily amount of magnesium is 300 to 400 milligrams per day. But again, in the talk I did last time, I listed some foods with which you could get magnesium by eating, and you'll be happy to know one of them is dark chocolate. So.
What a good note to end on. That's encouraging. Wow. For all the advantages that you presented, the fact that slows down aging, for any ladies out there thinking about how you can want to look younger, your immune system, and like you, I'm a doctor, so I know I've had the effects of working a shift and knowing how it feels.
Absolutely.
Afterwards, you feel like a zombie.
Absolutely.
If you haven't had sleep. And I don't know whether you've caught this program on Netflix called Awake.
I've heard of it. I've not watched it.
Oh yeah. So what they have is contestants who they keep awake for 24 hours and ask them to do certain tasks.
Yeah. Okay.
And they compare that. So if anybody wants to look at that to see the effects that sleep deprivation can have on you, is that they compare the tasks that they've set these individuals to people who weren't sleep deprived. And it really has quite an impact on just regular tasks that you can do.
Absolutely.
So that just tells you how important sleep is. So thanks for that. We've got a question in the chat that says, can you oversleep?
Good question. Good question. So, I think, I suppose it depends on where you are in your journey from a sleep deprivation point of view, because my experience is often when you've had sleep deprivation and you have a good night's sleep, you often don't feel better. So, and sometimes the question is, oh, did I sleep too much? I think, obviously, medically, there are conditions that would make you have, lethargy and sleep for long periods of time. So if you're sleeping for as an adult, if you're sleeping for 10 hours, 12 hours longer than that, that's probably something to have a conversation with your doctor about. But if it's a case of, oh, I went from 6 hours and 8 hours or I've had a week of 6 hours, I had 8 hours, I don't feel so well. I don't think that's oversleep. I think that's probably your body just resetting itself. So I don't think, I think unless it's pathological, I don't think personally there's such a thing as oversleep in the truest sense. I suppose the thing to clarify is how productive you are in life, and whether your husband or wife needs you to take care of the kids. I know for me, oversleep is sometimes something I do when I have duties that require me me to get up.
All the questions are coming out.
Exactly. Yeah, you've heard it now. Don't to my wife.
Yeah, no, I think sleep's really, really important to get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And thanks for going through all the benefits. So if anybody's here and you're listening and you're thinking to yourself, you know, yeah, I pride myself on being able to exist on, I hear people say, I only need 5 hours sleep because I'm really busy. But you're storing up problems for the future. 5 hours is not enough. And you can see the long-term effects on your immune system, on weight gain, on having a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
So we've got another question about people who can get to sleep, because I think with sleep there are different issues. So one is the issue of not getting enough.
Yeah.
Then you've got people who find it difficult to fall asleep. And when I think back to myself, when I've got things on my mind, I find it really difficult to fall asleep. And it's about maybe using practical strategies to overcome that.
Yeah. Or
waking up early in the morning. And I wonder if you can talk about some practical things.
Yeah.
There are lots of apps now that you see that talk about calmness and sleepness and things like that.
Yeah.
And anything you can talk about with because the other consideration and something that I worry about is people who have to medicate to sleep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you can just address some of those.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll summarize as much as I can, but like I said, I think there's over an hour's worth of an in-depth conversation about it at the CAHN YouTube page. So I would strongly encourage everybody to make sure that you go and have a look at that. But in terms of, you're right. So there's in terms of sleep issues, there's the getting to sleep, there's the staying to sleep. And back to the issue about disease. In reality, most of us are in a situation where we're probably not doing enough in the day to deal with the things that we're dealing with emotionally. So, and it often becomes an issue at night because there's nothing else to think about. I agree with you. When my mind is busy, I have difficulty sleeping, but that means that I haven't taken the time in the day to do the mental processing I need to do. So one of the things we talked about last time is increasing levels of stillness in the day. I got to the point in my life where I woke up, I realized I wake up, go to sleep, and I never had a pause. I never stopped. I never sat down. I was going. And these things don't help. So practical, something you can do. One of the things you can do is wake up at the same time every day, because actually that's more important. That's as important as having a robust sleep regime. Waking up at the same time every day and getting as much natural light as you can as early as possible. What that does is it helps increase the secretion of a hormone in your body called melatonin, and melatonin helps you to get to sleep in the night. So you can buy things like, because often, especially in winter, our alarm wakes us up to a dark room. You can buy an alarm that wakes you up with light. So that's something that you can think about doing. Something else that you can do is, specifically in terms of stillness in the day, whether you want to take some time to pray, I do that. Take some time specifically to meditate. So on purpose, maybe for 10 minutes a day, I'm going to find somewhere to sit in silence and not interact with anybody, because actually what that helps to do is it does reduce your cortisol, it does reduce your heart rate, it does reduce your blood pressure, and the opposite of those things makes it difficult for you to sleep. Other things that you can do are making sure that your room is cold, because actually 18 degrees is the advised temperature for you to have a good night's sleep. I touched on my idea of God's original plan. If we think about all the things that we've done to help us in society, often they've moved away from where we were, before we had industrialization. But to sleep, you need dark and you need cold. And because of modern life, we have central heating, we have electricity. Often, you might be like, oh, I've got a nice night light, but the presence of light at all in your room makes it harder for you to get to sleep. So actually going to sleep in a pitch black room is the best thing you can do in terms of helping you. One of the best things you can do in terms of helping you go to sleep. We talked about medication, and we'll let you into a little secret, Dr. Ngozi and I. The majority of medications we have to help people sleep don't solve the problem. They might help you break a cycle, but they don't solve the underlying problem. And one of the things I talked about last time is that they've done some studies. And if you were to take these advices that I'm giving in terms of the practical things you can do, so what you can eat, exercise, cold, dark, prayer, maybe therapy to unburden yourself, talking to friends, all of these things. When they did studies about people who had difficulty sleeping, doing that was better than taking drugs. So my advice would be, obviously, I'm not saying, there are situations where, especially when it's been going on for a long time, taking medication might help you break the cycle and then, reset and start. But in terms of long-term sleep hygiene, there are more practical things that you can do that would help you in that regard. So there are some specific questions about waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and find it difficult to get it back to sleep. I think it depends on, because that's a very good question, and thank you for asking it. But I think there are lots of questions I would want to ask you to try and qualify. So, how are you in the day in regards to your processing? Are you an anxious person? Are you talking about the things that are close to your heart? What temperature is your room? Do you have any underlying medical conditions? Because there are lots of things that mitigate. Even medication sometimes make it difficult. So I think if it's something that is a consistent thing for you, Ms. McInnes, I think it would be, maybe it's worth having a conversation with your GP about, if it's been going on for a long time, because you never know, the solution might be just a really simple thing that you can do and help you get back to a situation where you're sleeping past 4.
Thank you. I've had some direct questions to me, and one of them is about what are the effects on the body for people who work at night? Consistently at night. Yeah,
so like I was saying, and again, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to advocate that anybody makes any significant changes to the work life because of this, but I think we have to take stock and acknowledge where we are. The data is suggestive that people who work night are less healthy. So it increases the risk of cardiovascular disease and higher blood pressure. And we've talked about things like diabetes and weight gain. So those things just are. It does increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, strokes and stuff working at night. So I know some people, it's better from a lifestyle point of view in terms of kids and stuff like that. I think, like I said before, I think first off, I believe the first thing we should do is, this is a situation that I'm in. What else can I do in my life to mitigate this? So am I eating healthily? Am I drinking water? Am I making sure that, when I wake up, I get sunshine, all these kinds of stuff, because we can offset. But I think, depending on what's important to you, I think these are big conversations to have in families to say, well, if I'm at risk of something and the thing I'm doing is making me more at risk of, is there an option for me to find another way of living so as to reduce the risk? I know of people, I know of a lady who had multiple sclerosis. So she moved, she's in America, she moved to the West Coast because it was warmer. And actually cold is one of the things that makes flares happen. So this is back to take stock, take responsibility, take action. Now at least you're armed with the information that there might be something that I'm doing that might not be helping me. And then, you know, maybe in conjunction with your GP or with other healthcare professionals, you can say, well, you know, how much at risk of cardiovascular problems am I? Is it worth me changing? And I think there are so many other ways if you do research of potentially making a living that you never know. It might be even better for you.
Thank you for that. Now, one of the things is that working nights as medics, sometimes we haven't had a choice.
Absolutely.
But what I find is there's some people who are working nights, and what they're doing is actually burning the candle at both ends, so that they can be there during the day for their family. So that means that they're actually working nights, but also trying to do all the things that they would have done during the day. It's really important that if you do work nights, and that's what you have to do, that, like Dr. Ayo said, take stock and try and make sure that you get your full night's requirements, because that's what's important to make sure you live a healthy lifestyle. Now, just give you an anecdote. A few years ago, I bought myself an Apple Watch. And so after a few weeks, it analyzed what I was doing. And it said to me, the days you go for a run, you sleep longer. I didn't even know that. I didn't even realize that. But after a few weeks of looking at all the days I run and the days I didn't, they just sent me a little message saying that these are days you ran, and this is the average number of hours sleep you get on those days.
What was the difference?
About an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, about an hour. So I thought to myself, I'm probably more tired because I usually go for a run in the morning and then I'll do my day activities. And it's probably that I'm more tired on those days. But they said I slept, it was a better quality sleep and longer sleep. So that's just the tip.
Exercise is one of the things that you can do, walking, running. So obviously we know that doing these things consistently reduces our cardiovascular health. So, I mean, there's lots of ways that it helps. So having high blood pressure means that you sleep poorly. So if I exercise, not only like Dr. Ngozi says, will I feel more tired, but when I'm relaxed it's easier for me to have the longer sleep, but I will also affect my blood pressure, which will have a knock-on effect of making it have a better night's sleep. There are some people who have high blood pressure and or diabetes, and the thing they do is just walk regularly, and after a period of time they've been able to reverse the high blood pressure, come off medication, and maybe not have any medication for diabetes. So obviously in conjunction with their GP, but what I'm saying is that it's possible with the right intention to do it, but it would just mean that walking is now a big part of your life. So, you know, balancing, would I rather take the medication, which has side effects? The only side effects of walking is maybe sore feet, but it helps you from a health point of view. Yes, indeed.
The right equipment, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a question here about someone's got diabetes and wakes up quite a number of times in the night to have to go to the toilet. So it means that even if they're sleeping, it's very broken. And there are a number of things I know that people say as a consequence of prostate problems.
Yes.
Kidney problems, that constant waking up can also be a detriment to having a good night's sleep. This
is a really good question. So I think the thing with diabetes is that what I would want to know as a doctor is how good is your blood sugar control in the day? Because often waking up at night, I'm not saying this is the case in you, but often waking up at night is an indication that blood sugar control is not good. So that is what we call an osmotic symptom. So that person tends to have a higher blood sugar than otherwise. So things like thirst and blurred vision and lethargy and waking up at night are going hand in hand with have diabetes that's not well controlled. So that's the first thing I would ask, because if your diabetes is not well controlled, being really intentional about doing that might improve the nocturia. And if you're a man, then obviously, like Dr. Ngozi said, then prostate issues might also be affecting as well. And it's a big thing in the Black community. One of the things we talked about in the lecture that I did, in the talk that I did last time, was, you know, there are sensible things you can do. So a gentleman came and he said he knows that if he drinks, 6 hours later, he's going to have to go to toilet a lot. Well, then Now you know that. That's really useful information, because now you can change your lifestyle so that you get the liquid, the hydration that you need in the hours that's not going to affect your ability to sleep. So just do it as early as you can, because now your body has it, and then hopefully reducing the need to wake up to wee later. So it's just, again, it's really taking responsibility, because like I said, your body is your luxury car that you love and want to take care of in a way. So making sure that you know your cycles, even if it's keeping a sleep diary. When do I go to sleep? When do I wake up? Because as a doctor, that would be really useful information for me if you came to speak to me, to say, okay, so you normally go to bed at 11 and you wake up at 3 and you go back to sleep at 6. And all of these things help us and will help yourself be able to know where the holes are and what to plug.
There's been another question about wandering thoughts and waking up early. And one of the things I've told myself, because, we're all in real life. And sometimes real life throws you some problems.
Absolutely.
And the time that you're alone with your thoughts is in the middle of the night. But what I've found, and obviously I've been through this as well, where you're worried about either your health, about your family. The thing is that very often at that time, those thoughts are not constructive. They're just worry, and there's just a cycle. And what I had to do is to try and meditate and to stop those thoughts, so that, because that worry doesn't change anything at all. It's not constructive. In actual fact, it just eats into your well-being. It eats into your sleep, because that's why you put the problem there. And it's better to try and park it. And as Dr. Ayo said, meditation helps, and prayer. So try as much as possible not to get into that cycle of worry, especially when it's just you and your thoughts, just as you're about to go to sleep. It's a really dangerous time.
Absolutely.
For worry. I've been there, so I'm talking from experience, and I had to find something to break that cycle.
If I can piggyback on that, I think that's really, really useful advice, Dr. Ngozi. And sometimes the issue is that people think that, they feel helpless. There's nothing I can do. I think what's really important is to remember that, so there's the phrase that you can't stop the birds from flying around your head, but you can stop them from building a nest in your hair. So I want you to feel empowered. If that's you, I want you to feel empowered to be like, if I get the right strategies, I'm going to be able to make sure that I control my thoughts. So one of the things we talked about in the previous talk was having a protected time for worry. So rather than spending all day worrying, between 3:30 and 4, I'm going to worry. But before 3:30 and after 4, I'm not going to worry. And if worry comes, nope, that's not what we're doing right now. And I find sometimes engaging with the thoughts by speaking really helps. Actually speaking out loud. No, I'm not doing that right now. No, I don't have time to think that right now. It really helps. And because if you think about it, if you were to count in your mind from 1 to 10, and then in the middle of it say something, you would stop counting. So speaking out loud trumps what you're thinking. So maybe even in the night, you can say things that are reassuring to you. As a Christian, I rehearse the things that I know that God has promised me. God has promised me health. God has promised me his love. God has promised me his provision. So those are the things that I remind myself of to address the worry. I think other things you can do, like Dr. Ngozi talked about, the CAHN app are really good. That's free, therapy. And I personally believe that part of God's original plan, because if you think about, again, pre-industrialization, we all lived close together. Being connected socially is something else I can do to help me from a mental health point of view. And we all know, or we've all seen stories of people who, God forbid, have committed suicide and stuff, and they talk about how lonely they are. I think it's really important for us, if you're in a situation where you feel lonely, I think you'd be surprised at the access that somebody would give you if you were to say, look, can we talk? I think you'd be surprised at that. And I think engaging with our community, we are so gregarious and so loving and so welcoming that, you know, I believe that it's a shame that in our community that there are people who still feel like there's nobody to talk to. So if that's you, reach out. I think you'd be surprised at the reach back. And if that's not you, reach out, because, you know, you don't know what somebody's going through. And unfortunately, is it Twitch earlier this year that, you know, that died of suicide? Reach out to your friends who are always laughing, you know, because we don't know.
That's really important. There are times when, you know, it's really easy to send a text.
Yeah.
And so there's times I think, I need to reach out to this friend I haven't spoken to for a while. And then you look at the time, you think, well, I know they work between this hour and this hour.
Yeah.
I don't want to interfere, or maybe they're busy. If they're busy, they'll just say so. So if there's somebody out there that you think, oh, I haven't heard from for a while, I'm just going to send them a WhatsApp, because it's so easy to do these things now, a little, but just pick up the phone and just ring. I don't think we do that enough.
Yeah, even things like voice notes.
Yeah,
I love voice notes.
Times when I've rung where I've thought, you know, I don't want to interfere because this person seems really busy. They'll say, I'm so pleased that you called. The number of times, more often than not. And if they are, they'll say, can I ring you back in an hour?
Exactly.
So don't feel that you're interfering. Everybody goes around, but I really feel that we should be a bit more intertwined and involved with lives, because just as you said, that it's so easy to feel lonely when there's so much going on around you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So reach out. We've got another question here about, she hasn't said how old her daughter is, but she gets up in the middle of the night to take her daughter to the toilet as sort of potty training, so she doesn't wet the bed, I presume.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking potty training, we're talking about a young child. I think the great thing about kids is that kids are robust. Kids are robust, essentially indestructible. So from my point of view, I personally don't. She's 8, fine. I don't see it as an issue, because one of the great things about kids is that the regenerative processes that we have in our body are at their prime when we are young. So all the things that, you know, she may have been missing out on because she's waking up, her body is compensating for. So I don't think it's a concern, because obviously once she's potty trained, then we've sorted out. So no, I'm
healthy for her.
Yes.
I think you'd benefit by not waking up, but it's as a mum, it's it's part of what we do.
Absolutely.
Get Dad to do it sometimes. Share it.
Yeah, share it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Share it. Yeah. Tell him doctor's orders.
Yeah, just look through. There is another question here about chronic pain.
Okay.
Yeah, chronic pain. And so this is a question from somebody who's not getting enough sleep because of chronic pain. I think that's a difficult issue, because it is.
It is. And I think so. Thank you very much for your question, Zara. I think, again, it would be really useful to have some more information, but in terms of general, I think often the issues with chronic pain is obviously there's the presence of the pain itself, but sometimes the things that we give people to treat pain often affect the sleep-wake cycle. So I think it's really, really difficult. What I would say, the first thing I would say is that, you know, I would want to know what kind of painkillers you're taking, and has there been a conversation with your GP about the fact that the pain is still an issue and it's still affecting your sleep? Because sometimes people who have chronic pain might need different types of painkillers, you know, a bit of this and a bit of that, of a different drug class, to be able to deal with the symptoms. And it's difficult. I mean, I can't say anything more than that. It's really challenging. It's so challenging that we now have chronic pain clinics, because, you know, most of us, when somebody's had significant chronic pain, we've tried all the things that we have at our arsenal and we still don't have answers. We refer to a specialist. So I don't know whether it's something that your GP has considered, and it may be worth having a conversation to say, look, not only do I have the pain, but the pain is now affecting my life. Because as doctors, that's the thing that we want to know. Often when people come in and say, oh, I'm breathless, I ask them, well, how far can you walk? because it's important to me to know how the symptom is affecting their life. So if it's affecting your sleep, I think your GP would want to know.
Thank you for that. I think that's really valuable advice there. And I hope it gets sorted out, because chronic pain in any circumstances, especially if it's affecting your sleep, is not nice. So I hope you've had some valuable feedback that you can take forward. And I wish you the best for your health.
Yeah.
We don't seem to have any more questions at the moment.
There was something that Dr. Gertrude said, is people who sleep at every opportunity. Like they can't sit for 2 hours, fine. That's a very good question, Dr. Gertrude. And again, there are lots of causes of this. As an acute medicine consultant, my first question to that person is, do you snore? Because if you snore, then that makes me wonder whether they have a condition called obstructive sleep apnea. So essentially, when you sleep, everything slows down, and actually your oxygen levels dip a little when you're asleep. Everybody's does, it's fine. But sleep apnea happens because there's essentially a blockage in the air tube, so the oxygen levels drop, and they drop very, very frequently. What happens with that is that the oxygen levels are chronically low, carbon dioxide levels are chronically high, and the symptom of carbon dioxide levels is tiredness and lethargy. They can get sweats, and they can get, warm hands and stuff. So that would be the first thing. It tends to be people who are overweight, but it's not always. So I would ask, is that person a snorer? Have they had a conversation with their GP about their snoring? Have they done anything to mitigate? Are they overweight? Because, not for the sake of the number, I'm not interested in, any sort of Hollywood metrics. All I'm saying is that if we take our health seriously, then we will put ourselves in a position where every metric of our life gets better. And not from a body shaming point of view, but the reality is that there are conditions that you are more at risk of when it comes to carrying extra weight, especially in the midriff. So it's important just not to feel shame about it, but just to take stock. Is this where I am? And if it is, what can I do to mitigate it? Because we want you to live a long, healthy life.
Thank you. And I suppose we're selected, the people who dial into this and listen to us on YouTube and Facebook and dial into the Zoom meetings are a selected group. They're here because you want to take responsibility for your health.
Absolutely.
But what I would say is, one, today, please give us some feedback that's there. Part of the feedback is suggesting topics that we'd like us to talk about as well. But spread the word. Don't be selfish. Whilst we want you to live a long and healthy and wonderful life, we want your friends and family to do as well.
Yeah.
So when you log on, send a text, phone call to friends and family and ask them to log on as well. But you are a select group because you're here because you are interested and you take your health seriously, and you're taking responsibility as well because you've realized that's important. So if you do one thing this week, I always like to think, for every time you come, think of one thing you can take away from this. So it's not just a sort of jolly and listen and meet friends, and that you take something away that you think, this is going to change this week. Even if it's to think, well, I don't actually meditate. Maybe I can take out 5 minutes for myself every day. I got into the habit this year of every evening writing down 3 things I'm grateful for. Today will be the ability to have come to this session will be one of them. They don't have to be big things, but little things, but 3 things that you're grateful for. And it has made an impact because you tend to focus on the worry, if you're worrying on the things that are not going so well, but there is so much in everybody's life. Honestly, I challenge you to say that there's nothing. The fact that you wake up in the morning is something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here. Thank you for taking responsibility for your own health. And please fill in our feedback and let us know what other things you'd like us to talk about. And lastly, thank you, Dr. Ayo. That was a fantastic session. Even though I'm a medic, I find all these sessions really helpful. For those of you that don't know, I'm a neonatologist, which means I look after babies who are unwell at the beginning of their lives. So anything about adults, I haven't done for 30 years. So all these things are really great for me as well. And I really value coming here and listening to our experts. So thank you, Dr. Ayo.
Very welcome.
That was a really brilliant session. And I'm going to hand back to our CAHN team to take us through the other interesting things that CAHN has in store for us. I know we've always got lots of fantastic things, so over to the team. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Olatoye and Ngozi, for shedding more light on sleep. Yeah, I've really learned a lot today. Yeah, so massive thanks. So our next, same time next week, our next CATHIP Health Hour session will take place again on Zoom. That's on 4th March from 11 to 12. Yeah, so this the topic is about fibro and endostromosis. Yeah, so our guest speaker will be Dr. Edmond Odi Osaji. Yeah, so the link is below to register. That's event@can.org.uk. Yeah, and we have other engagements, which is the Health Hour, which is every Tuesdays from 6 p.m. to 7:30. Which is on this coming Tuesday, that's 28th February. Yeah, so the topic we have on there is good fats versus bad fats, implication for health. And facilitator will be Dr. Hibal Kwesi, registered nutritionist. And then the guest speaker will be Phyllis Addo. And our physical instructor will be there as well, who is Orlando Grant. Yeah, moving on, we have our upcoming event, which is the International Women's Day, which will be on the 8th of March, 2023. So the theme is empowering Black women during menopause. So this will be in 3 sessions. So we have the conference, which will be it will be a long event, which will be from 2:30 to 9 p.m. But they are in 3 sessions. So we have the conference, which is from 2:30 to 4:30, which will be that will be like 2 hours event. And then we have the stores from 4:45 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then finally we have the Celebrating Black Womanhood. That's from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Yeah, so the venue is the Limelight First Street Bridge Street, Old Trafford, Stratford, Manchester. Yeah, and we have the postcode that's M16N9NW. So to register, you can register on Eventbrite, the CAHN portal, and if you want to book for stall as well, the link is below. Yeah, so moving on, we have the crowdfunding. So this is a program that is on there to help support those who are experiencing domestic violence, sexual abuse, and struggling families during the cost of living crisis. So please do well from your heart. As we have the link there, you go on there, and then you could any pence count. So whatever from your heart, you could just donate. Thank you so much. And also we have this family and advocacy support services that CAHN offers. So if you're going through any sign of suicide, any sign of issues, just don't forget that during tough times, you are not alone. Our advocacy and counseling team services are always available every day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And if you need any support, which is very urgent, you could contact the number below and also send an email to help@can.org.uk. Yeah, so moving on, we have the bereavement peer support group, which our counseling service is offering for free 10-week adult bereavement support group session starts between 9th March to 17th July 2023, which is the 10-week. And it will offer support, friendship, and understanding in a safe and confidential space. So to register, kindly email rosalind@can.org.uk or send help@can.org.uk, or can call our helpline as shows on the screen. Yeah, and we have a new service that started from last year with one of our colleagues, Michelle. That's the Green and Art Wellbeing. So the Green and Arts Wellbeing offers a wide range of creative and physical activities inspired by CAHN. So join us in Stockport every Tuesday at 1 p.m. and Bolton every Wednesday at 2 p.m. For more information, you could reach out. You could reach out with the email below, which is grain and art at wellbeing@can.org.uk, or you can call the number we have on there for more information. Yeah. Also, yeah, CAHN has been there for years now, and we're moving forward, helping the community and all that. And we've come into partnerships with Rafa, Croydon, BMU Forum, Enfield Caribbean, BHI, the Redeemed Christian Church of God. So if any information that you need from CAHN, you can contact our comms interim manager, Landy, and we have the email below, lamide@can.org.uk, or you can check on our website for any information you need. Yeah, and then Enfield too, our partnership, you could reach out to Dion John. They have the email on there as well as the telephone number. And we have the Rafa International Development Agency. Yeah, so any information you want from Rafa, you could reach out to the contact there, the phone number and the email, or the website for more information. And also the Royal Assembly Redeemed Church, which are in partnership with, contact Dr. Samuel Okerenta, as well as we have the contact information below. Yeah, and then lastly, we have the Black Health Initiative, that's the BHI. Yeah, you can get on their website, and also any inquiries, you have the phone number on there as well as the email. Yeah, so that's what CAHN have for you today. Any inquiries, you could reach out to us, and you could reach out to Landy at olamide@can.org.uk for all the information you need. Yeah, thanks so much once again, and massive thanks for today. Any question? Okay, so since we don't have any question, I think this is the end of our session. And thanks so much, everyone, and hope to see you guys again same times next week. That's going to be an interesting topic about fibroid. Thank you so much.
Welcome to our Caribbean and African Targeted Health Improvement Program, CATHIP Health Hour. The Caribbean and African Health Network, CAHN, along with its national partners, are incredibly pleased to continue to bring to you targeted health and well-being education delivered by Caribbean and African doctors. These health hours are all about empowering, educating, and giving space to Black people so our communities can look after themselves better. Every Saturday, our Black GPs or consultants present on those health and well-being topics that affect you, your family members, and friends. Some weeks will vary and will include other panel members such as pharmacists, specialist nurses, and faith leaders. Our health hours cover a range of topics and include mental health, heart health, women's health, reproductive and sexual health issues, men's health, respiratory problems, cancer, sickle cell, and many more. We have not forgotten to include within our health hours the many societal, cultural, religious, and racial challenges that can go hand in hand with health problems and influence how we should respond to meet health and well-being needs. The sessions are designed for you, and we want you to use the time to listen, learn, share your experiences, and ask questions to our Black doctors. During every session, we will gather your feedback so we can continue to respond to the needs of our Black community. To request any particular topic, please email health@can.org.uk. We encourage you to invite others to our health hour sessions. Spread the word in our community. CATHIP is funded by the National Lottery Community Fund.